So I've had this theory for a while, and to kind of test if anyone else was seeing a similar pattern, I asked you guys what Splatoon game you felt Splatoon 3 was the most based off of. And a decent majority of you guys thought it was Splatoon 1, and I'm here to tell you that it is way more one-sided than you might think. In fact, I would go as far as to say Splatoon 3 is closer to a Splatoon 1 sequel that uses Splatoon 2 aspects than a Splatoon 2 sequel. What do I mean by that? Why do I have this opinion, and what does it mean for the game? We're gonna cover all that, so subscribe if you want to see more, and let's get right into it. So first off, why do I think it's a Splatoon 1 sequel? Well, because the trailers are showing a humongous preference towards that. Let's start with the first trailer. There were 3 songs showcased in it, one of them being the Splatoon 1 loading screen song, and the other one being a remix of Splat Attack, the song used at Splatoon 1's reveal. And finally, while it's a smaller detail, even the music playing during the train is from the plaza in Splatoon 1. Then we can take a look at the weapons showcased. Obviously there's the new bow, but outside of that we have the E-liter, which was the most common charger in the first game, Dynamo, the most common and best roller in the first game, and Range Blaster, the most infamous blaster in the first game, at least at a higher level. On the other side, they showcased a splatter shot specifically with Inkzuka, which again, most common short range shooter, 96, which for a while was the main staple of the meta and a long range shooter, Hydra, which while Mini was the better one, Mini is a bit different from normal spelling, so it makes sense they would showcase it, and then the only outlier being Machine, which I guess they wanted to show the new look. I'm not sure why regular Slosher wasn't there. Oh, and speaking of specials, this trailer confirmed 2 new returning specials, being the Trizooka based off Inkzuka and Killer Whale 5.1 based off the Killer Whale. And from there I'll jump to the second trailer, which confirmed 1 more returning special being Big Bubbler based off Bubbler. All 3 returning specials being based off the ones in the first game that were specifically banned, rather than the second game specials. The second trailer did more than that. We got our first returning stage, which is a Splatoon 1 stage. And while it's not confirmed, the only other hint at a possible returning stage in the trailer is another Splatoon 1 stage being Flounder Heights in the single player section. Speaking of the single player, we got a brief look at that as well, which featured Callie, Marie, Agent 3, and Captain Cuttlefish, and did not feature Agent 4, 8, or Off the Hook. Once again, a very clear preference to the characters in Splatoon 1, not Splatoon 2. And if that doesn't seem like enough of a coincidence already, literally the entire trailer was based off the Splatoon 1 original Hero Mode trailer. Now obviously there were still some Splatoon 2 things shown. I'm not trying to pretend those don't exist. Like yes, we saw Glugas and Undercover, and I guess Splash and Charger were shown because they were more popular in Splatoon 2. But there's not really as much of it, and the stuff that we do see are just things that, in hindsight, it wouldn't really make sense not to have, such as Salmon Run. Were they really gonna get rid of an entire mode and risk every Salmon Run fan not buying the next game? Yeah, probably not. My theory is that Splatoon 3 will more closely be a callback/sequel to Splatoon 1, and will focus on having the game feel or bring back attributes such as specials or stages from that game over the things in Splatoon 2. Now obviously, not everything in Splatoon 2 will not come back. We will probably see some of it, just significantly less of it. There are some things that we have to get, like Salmon Run, all of the main weapons, probably some of the subs, and I bet we'll even see some of the Splatoon 2 characters, just they won't be as prominent or featured as much. You want to give people who bought Splatoon 2 a reason to buy Splatoon 3, so it doesn't make sense to leave some things behind, and also, most of these things are just straight up good for the game, so there's no reason to leave them behind at all anyway. Now, I think Nintendo is doing this for 2 reasons. 1, preserve the Wii U. Splatoon 1 had a lot of amazing stages or special ideas, etc. that are just kind of stuck on a console no one can play. Compared to Splatoon 2's attributes are readily accessible on the Switch for the same price as Splatoon 3. It makes much more sense to try to bring things over that majority of Splatoon players have not experienced yet. The second reason is the Splatfest. Undoubtedly, Chaos is Splatoon 1 and Order is Splatoon 2. That's just the directions of those games and how the series has developed. It's possible that if Order won, the game could have been more heavily based on Splatoon 2, but that's a bit more of a theory for another time. So what does this theory mean? Well, I think that there are going to be several attributes that are much more heavily focused on Splatoon 1 than Splatoon 2, mainly the music, the stages, the specials, and the characters. Splatoon 1 has 6 remaining maps that have not been ported to Splatoon 2, not counting Museum because it already got confirmed, and outside of Salt Spray, which would need a major rework considering it was banned in 2 of the 3 modes, it would be pretty easy to port them with minor changes. Specials, it would be pretty easy to see Echolocator, Inkstrike, Kraken, and, okay, well, Bomb Rush is kind of the same special in both games, but, you know, we'll see that. Splatoon 1 specials are generally more fun and easier to fix. You just kind of have to tone down the broken aspects, and we've already seen that with the 3 Splatoon 1 specials they brought into the 3rd game. So it's pretty easy to see a Kraken with startup and HP, or a slightly tweaked Inkstrike or Echolocator in Splatoon 3. I think specials are the easiest one to understand. They are the more broken banned specials, so they're more interesting, and they're the ones most of the players haven't used yet, so it makes sense to bring those over Splatoon 2 ones. I will say there is one exception on the specials, which is Ultra Stamp and Booyah Bomb, because they were added at the end of the game, and they're on like 5 weapons, so it's kind of a waste. And also at the same time, Booyah Bomb and Ultra Stamp aren't really designed the exact same as a lot of the other Splatoon 2 specials, so it's easier to see them in a different game. Either way, I can't imagine them wasting making those specials for them to be on 10 weapons total at the tail end of a game's lifespan. And as for the characters, I think the story is gonna be about Agent 3, Callie, and Marie. I mean, we've already seen that it looks like Captain Cuttlefish is somewhat retiring, Agent 3 is now the captain, and we have Callie and Marie helping out again after their arc in Splatoon 2. It makes much more sense to focus on these characters who we've seen have development over the past 2 games and see how they end up now training someone brand new in a new story. Like with the previous points, this doesn't mean there will be nothing from Splatoon 2. I'd be very surprised if Off the Hook wasn't involved to some extent, but I think they'll be much closer to Callie being a hidden final boss at the end of the game. They'll show up and have a role, just not as prominent and not in the game as much as what most people expect. And the music I feel is more obvious. Splatoon 1 has much more of a rock theme, and not only have we gotten a return of Splat Attack, but the new song Clickbait is very clearly closer to Splatoon 1's style. Okay, so that's my theory, but do I even want this? Well, kind of. I definitely think there would be some missed opportunity. There are some really cool maps in Splatoon 2, and I still really want Inkjet back, but I don't think it's that big a loss. Bringing over the maps and specials people missed from the first game makes a lot of sense. While I haven't mentioned it as much, Splatoon does have a problem with a lot of characters, and it's hard to do them all justice, so focusing on a few might be a good way to help that problem. What I want out of Splatoon 3 personally is kind of a hybrid of what Splatoon 1 and 2 did well, and I think reworking aspects from Splatoon 1 slightly differently than they did in Splatoon 2 is a great way to really achieve that. If I'm right and this is the direction they're going, my concern is the one probably most people have. Don't forget about Splatoon 2 entirely, and I don't think they will. We are clearly already seeing dualies and brellas, and I would be very surprised if we didn't see something like all the main weapons come back or some of the sub-weapons, etc. And even if they're not directly ported, I think there are some Splatoon 2 ideas that are being turned into new things, such as Baller's rolling around mechanism being used for Crab Tank, or Inkjet's recall on Zipcaster, or the brand new stage in the second trailer having some inspirations from the Reef. Basically, what I hope and what I think we will see is Splatoon 2 attributes will still be there, but rather than directly ported, they will be more turned into something new, borrowing attributes that they want to reuse. Again, with some exceptions like Salmon Run, because you just can't get rid of it without alienating part of the fan base, so what they'll do with that is just try to expand and make it better than it was in the previous game. Who knows though, I could be completely wrong about it, but from what I've seen, there is very clearly a preference to Splatoon 1 so far, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see if that's a trend that continues, or if they just want to hide and save some of the Splatoon 2 stuff for later. Either way, I feel like I should document my theory and evidence in case I happen to be right. We'll have to wait to find out. Let me know if you guys agree with this theory or what your thoughts on it are, and I will see you all in another video.